Hey Raider Nation, thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble, sponsored by Betway and now Signables. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
And Heidi, as great as it is to get together with you, it's even greater to get together and discuss a win. So today we're going to talk about a big win over the Texans that improves their Vegas record to 2-4, and now we move ahead to New Orleans.
Today on the show, we will discuss the Raiders' big win over the Texans as Las Vegas improves its record to 2-4 and gets the team right back into the mix of things in the AFC West. We also have a big giveaway to announce, so stay tuned.
Okay, Raider Nation, we would love to hear from you. So here's how you can get in touch with us. Give us a call on the Only Nation podcast voicemail line at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can also check us out on the web at onlynationpod.com.
Here's the latest Raider news.
The Las Vegas Raiders defeated the Houston Texans on Sunday by a score of 38-20. In a battle of one-win teams coming off byes, the Raiders dominated the Texans after halftime, outscoring them 28-10 behind 227 yards of offense, including 98 from Josh Jacobs on the ground.
And you know, Heidi, we discussed this. It was so nice to be able to watch a Raiders game and not have to be sitting on the edge of my seat toward the end of the game. It did look kind of dicey toward the beginning of the third period, but the Raiders did something that they haven't done so far this year, and they closed out the game strong, which is something we've been looking for. And, of course, Davante Adams and Josh Jacobs led the way, which we'll talk about in more detail.
And for once, Josh McDaniels did not go away from the run. That was very nice to see.
Yes, I agree with that.
And the Raiders erased a 3-point fourth-quarter deficit and scored on 4 straight possessions before safety Duran Harmon iced the game by intercepting Houston quarterback Davis Mills and returning the ball 73 yards for the Raiders, their second defensive touchdown of the season.
And that's big to have the defense be able to score. We had Amik Robertson score previously, and of course now Duran Harmon gets the pick 6. The fact that the defense is able to put points on the board, not just shut down opponents, is big. Now, we could certainly use more of the sack game from the defense, but once again, being able to generate a big play and actually produce points of it is something that can really make the difference down the line for this team as they start, not yet for a playoff push, but getting closer toward the end of the season and putting themselves into position for a potential playoff push.
Yeah, the defense isn't getting a lot of turnovers, but when they do, they have a really good chance of scoring. So I'll take that.
Yeah, I will too.
But what I've been preaching for the last several years, the 2016 defense, it wasn't that good, but it got turnovers, and that made all the difference in the world. And once again, we see that game was iced on Sunday by that interception return. There was still a little bit of question as to whether the Texans could come back until that happened. When that happened, it was cold.
And, speaking of the defense, you and I have talked about this in great length on numerous podcasts. We're just not calling the names of interior defensive linemen that much. We are getting some tackles here and there. We are getting some push here and there, but not consistently. And that really makes a huge difference in the overall success of the team, is to have that good, consistent push up front and those guys who can not only pile up the run, but make consistent plays. We just haven't been able to call out the names of very many guys. Cleve Ferrell and Chandler Jones combined on a sack during the game. That was the only sack of the game. But again, we're just not calling guys' names out very much. It seems like the ones we're calling out are either linebackers having to chase down the field to make a tackle or defensive backs coming up to make a tackle.
For a while there, I was like, okay, Blake Martinez and Denzel Perriman on every single play. It seemed like they were the only ones tackling for a while.
Right.
And Josh Jacobs rushed for at least 140 yards for the third straight game. He has now rushed for 441 yards in the last 3 games. He became the first Raider to rush for more than 100 yards in 3 straight games since Napoleon Kaufman back in 1997. Jacobs is the 6th player in the past 6 seasons with 3+ 100-yard rushing games in a row.
What I really like to see was Marcus Allen in the stands. And I understand that Marcus Allen has been mentoring Josh, particularly over the last season. It's good to see Jacobs get all these accolades, but I'm really, really happy to see Marcus Allen back in the fold. There was that period of chilliness in between Marcus and the Raiders organization, obviously because of Al for many years, but to see him back and to see him passionate within Raider Nation and helping out Josh Jacobs and really applauding his efforts as he continues to make his way in the running back room and within Raider Nation records pretty much, that makes me happy to see.
I love seeing Marcus Allen back in the fold. He has been and probably always will be my favorite Raider. I have his autographed jersey on the wall above my bed, and it's like one of my most prized possessions. So to see him back in the fold and to see him mentoring someone like Josh, who has now beaten his record as to how many yards he's gotten in the first 50 games of his career, it's pretty special to see, and it's really nice to see him back in the fold.
And that's saying something when you're taking a young man who's still only in the 4th year of his career and comparing him to a Hall of Famer, and the guy who is really the bar as far as Raider running backs are concerned.
Davante Adams was on the receiving end of 8 Derek Carr passes on 9 targets for 95 yards. Adams has now surpassed 700 receptions for his career. His 707 catches ranks 4th in the NFL since he entered the league in 2014.
And I know that most of those catches were with Green Bay. I get it. But this just goes to show that, once again, Mark Davis and the Raiders organization saw the talent. I know that Davante wanted to play with his buddy Derek Carr. But again, the Raiders did what they need to make it happen, to have Davante come and spend time with the Raiders and to wear a Raiders jersey and to give the Raiders a bona fide number 1 receiver, which they haven't had in a long, long time, and arguably the best receiver at his position. He's been getting a lot of touches, and that's great. I would like to see him get even more than he's getting. But when he goes at it 1-to-1 with defenders, you can just see they are helpless. There's no answer that they have for him. And as many times as they can get him the ball, that's fine by me, because that's what we brought him in to do.
And it just shows with the Raiders going to where they need to be going. They need to be going on the ground to Josh Jacobs, and in the air, Davante Adams, their number 1 receiver. You get that working, and all of a sudden, the game you're playing seems to start going your way. And it took a while on Sunday, but it sure did happen. And when it happened beautifully.
And I hate saying this, and this is no dig at Darren Waller. I certainly don't want to pick on a guy who's injured, and I don't want to talk about the status of the injury, but I will say that when you have guys like Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams playing to the extent that they are, you don't really miss out as much on a guy like Darren Waller. Now, it would be great to have him, but you certainly don't miss out on as much when you have these two guys playing at the top of their game. And I think Foster Moreau filled in very, very well.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I really like Foster Moreau, and he filled in very well. There weren't any, spectacular catches, there wasn't like 11 passes to Foster, but the ones that he needed to catch, he did. And, it was pretty impressive, especially that one right down in front of the end zone that he really needed to get.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you noticed this or not, but on a couple of the big catches that he had, as soon as defenders were coming in to make contact with him, he was covering up the ball. There was no way he was getting separated from the ball.
Yeah, he was really into protecting the football, and that is always good to see from any offensive player.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little more about the game. Things looked much better this past week, especially during the latter part of the second half.
Heidi, what'd you see?
I saw Josh McDaniels going to the run and sticking with the run. And that made all the difference. Now, it was nice to see them going to Davante Adams. And There weren't any, spectacular plays to Davante this time, unlike the Chiefs game where everything was a spectacular play. But they moved the ball down the field and it got done. But Josh McDaniels finally stuck with the run and he realized Josh Jacobs is averaging, what was it, 7.2 yards per carry in the entire game?
7.3, exactly, yes.
7.3 yards per carry in the entire game. And realized, hey, you only need 2 runs to get a first down if you're going with Josh Jacobs and he's putting up numbers like that. So that's really what I saw. I saw the defense coming together. There was some holes, especially in the secondary, as usual. And as usual, they weren't getting a lot of pressure up on the middle of the line. The linebackers were very busy, and I'm glad to see that we finally have linebackers that can be busy, but I would like for there to be a little bit more pressure up front, because the pressure up front helps the secondary, and it makes the quarterback more uncomfortable, and that's definitely what we want. We want the quarterback as uncomfortable as possible. But the main difference was they went to the run, they stuck to it, and that made all the difference.
And Heidi, I want to give kudos to the offensive line. They continue to improve. I know they've been really put through the ringer by fans and coaches and NFL pundits as well, but they do continue to improve. Now, they only gave up 1 sack in this past week's game, and they pulled together to go 3 for 3 in the red zone, which is what we've been waiting to see. Now, the defense, on the other hand, they showed some areas of weakness. They only got 1 sack on the day, and the run defense got gashed on numerous occasions. But the Raiders came out in the fourth quarter and they dominated really on both sides of the ball, which is what good teams do. Now, the Raiders may not have proven that they're a good team yet, but I think they're certainly getting there. They're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that was really nice to see, not seeing Daniel Carlson. I love seeing him out there for PATs. That's my favorite, that's my favorite play of his, watching him kick PATs.
I agree. That followed by kickoffs that go out of the end zone and are not returnable.
Yeah. And now we would like to introduce a new sponsor to the show, Signables. Starting today, October 26th, we will be having a contest with Signables. Go to our Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram pages and click on the link to enter the contest. But hurry, we announce the winner next week, so get your entry in right now. And you know what I did? I asked Signables about our international listeners, and they said yes, international listeners can enter. So if you're in Denmark or Scotland or wherever you're listening to the show, head over to our landing page on Signables. It'll be posted on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Click the link and enter the contest. We would love for you to have it. Now, you're asking me, hey, Heidi, what are Signables? That sounds pretty interesting, but what the heck am I entering for? Signables is a one-of-a-kind sports collectible that you're not going to find anywhere else. Made from genuine football leather, every signable includes the athlete's digital signature and number on the front and the player's bio on the back. You can leave your signable in the box like a true collector, or take it out and have it displayed proudly in its stand. And one of the athletes that Signables contracts with is Davante Adams. So you'll be entering to win a free Davante Adams Signables collectible. Hurry up. Go enter the contest, and we want you to win. Everyone, come one, come all. Everyone enter.
And, these are really cool, Heidi. We got ours in the mail this past week, and we'll certainly get a picture up for everybody to be able to see it. But again, a unique collectible item, authentic leather, and then the digital signature on there as well. I think it's great that we get to launch this with Davante Adams because he's like the number one primo guy right now, not just with the Raiders, but as far as NFL receivers go. So you're getting a top-notch collectible for a top-notch player.
Yeah, and this is a newly launched collection for a newer type of collectible. So, you're going to be one of the first people that's going to be able to have one of these in your grubby little hands. I'm pretty happy to have mine in my grubby little hands, and it's going up on my, it's going to go up on my shelf pretty soon.
We're all getting in on the ground floor, so we're happy to have Signables on board. We thank them so much for their participation, and we look forward to a long and profitable relationship.
So, T3, what do you see coming up with our next opponent? Our next opponent is going to be the New Orleans Saints. What do you see going on with them?
All right, as you mentioned, the next opponent on the schedule is the Saints. At 2-5, the Saints' season is now teetering on the brink, but it hasn't been all on the shoulders of their offense. They've made some key mistakes, but the offense has been able to put up points so far this season. Now, in the loss last week to the Cardinals, though it was due largely to Andy Dalton's 3 interceptions, 2 of which were pick sixes, the defense has been a bigger letdown for the Saints this year. Currently, the defense is ranked number 20, which is tied with the Chiefs. The Raiders' defense, just a little behind that, is currently number 22. Now, if the Raiders can continue to keep opponents out of the end zone like they did against the Texans, the offense can do their thing and continue to cook. Now, I'm not going to make any score predictions this week. I just want to see another win, and that would be 2 in a row. So let's go get it.
So you want to see another win. Do you see that win happening?
I do. I see a win happening. I'm not going to predict a score, but I do see them winning, and this would be the second game in a row.
I agree. I'm calling a win for the Raiders, and let's see a win streak happen. All right, T3, why don't you tell us about your top 3 for the week?
T3's top 3.
All right. Here is this week's version of T3's top 3. Number 1. Unless the Raiders step up right now and extend Josh Jacobs for 1 to 2 more seasons, I think the young man may be playing his way right out of Las Vegas. And by that, I don't mean that the Raiders don't view him as important, because right now he is the man, but there are going to be teams out there with a lot of money to spend on a back like Josh Jacobs. If he keeps doing what he's doing right now and he stays healthy, Josh Jacobs is going to be a rich young man next year and probably in another uniform. Number 2, on their first offensive possession against the Texans, faced with a 3rd and 10, Derek threw a 2-yard completion to Amir Abdullah out of the backfield. He appeared to have Davante Adams open on a seam route down the middle. Was this another example of inefficient play calling or just poor recognition by the quarterback? Either way, it killed the drive and resulted in yet another field goal. Fortunately, the Raiders seemed to be able to make some of those corrections on offense, and they came out big in the fourth quarter. And then number 3, speaking of field goals, for a change, it was the opposition that was moving the ball up and down the field and then faltering in the red zone rather than the Raiders. If the defense can just do its part and keep opponents out of the end zone just enough, then this team will be fine. There are 4 consecutive games on the schedule now that are very winnable, but you can't take anything for granted in the NFL. Let's get this win down in the Big Easy. And that's this week's top 3.
All right, Josh Jacobs, love the guy, and I agree there's a good chance he will not be a Raider next year. It's apparent Josh McDaniels does not see him as very valuable, and I understand why they didn't give him the 5th-year option. Totally understandable. That's just the way the league is regarding running backs nowadays. But yeah, he is establishing himself as a dominating player. You know, he had a very impressive rookie year, and this year has been beyond a breakout year for him after a couple of years where he's a little shaky, had a few injuries, and hopefully the injury bug stays away from him this year. But yes, he is establishing himself as one of the best backs in the league again. And unfortunately, there's a good chance he won't be a Raider next year. And that's simply because the Raiders probably are not going to be willing to pay for him. There was a question before the year started if he would be a Raider during his 5th year, and the general consensus was that no, he wouldn't be because of the lack of value that the league sees on the running backs. But now it's definitely the difference is very tangible because he is going to earn a big contract, and I just don't see the Raiders paying it.
And I don't know which team it is, but there are going to be teams out there that have a lot of money to spend. And again, when you have a back like Josh Jacobs, if he is able to avoid injury this year, he's going to bring top dollar.
Yeah, he is. And as far as the first offensive possession against the Texans and the 2-yard completion to Amir Abdullah, I think that is a lot of Derek Carr not recognizing the field. It's something that he has always done, and it's something that he continues to struggle with. Now, that doesn't mean that it was a very good play call, but he has trouble scanning the field and reading all his progressions. So I am more likely to put that on Carr, as much as I love him. But, you can blame the play call, but I think it's probably more on Carr. And speaking of field goals, man, that was sure nice to see Daniel Carlson's PATs. Red zone efficiency, I almost didn't recognize the team. I really didn't. I'm just going to say it was nice, and let's keep it up.
It was certainly a nice change.
Yes, it was. All right, give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And what's coming up with Raider Roots this week, T3?
All right, next up on Raider Roots is the 2007 season. It's very interesting to see how Lane Kiffin came to be the head coach of the Raiders, and it's even more intriguing to see all the drama that unfolded between him and Al Davis. And then there was that whole Jamarcus Russell thing. It's all packed into one episode.
All right, T3, how about we find out what we do or we don't know this week?
All right, it is time for another edition of Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Heidi and all of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with a list of answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here's this week's question. In 2019, Josh Jacobs became the first Raiders rookie to rush for 1,000 yards in a season. This week's question, who is the first Raiders back to have gained over 1,000 yards in a season? Was it A, Clem Daniels, B, Mark Van Egan, or C, Marv Hubbard? So, Heidi, what is your guess?
Well, with the hint, and the hint is the year was 1963.
Ah.
I know it wasn't Mark Van Egan.
Okay.
And Marv Hubbard didn't come to the Raiders until closer to the merger.
Correct.
So I'm going to say it has to be A, Clem Daniels.
You are correct. See, I told you I would set you up for success there.
Thank you.
So Clem Daniels is the answer. 1963, that was the Raiders' fourth year of existence. And Clem Daniels was probably the first star player that the Raiders actually ever had. I know that Tom Flores is the quarterback who we all really value so much and was valuable to the team early on, and Jim Otto from day one. But in terms of a true superstar, I think Clem Daniels may have been the first true star that the Raiders had.
Yeah, but I would not have gotten it if it wouldn't have been for that hint.
Well, I'm glad I provided the hint for you then.
Thank you.
And that's, is that 3 or 4 in a row now? I think that's at least 3 in a row.
I think it's closer to 4 or 5 or maybe 6.
Okay, we'll keep adding totals together there for you. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. All right, Raider Nation, it is now time for Heidi's Heroes.
Flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Okay, Raider Nation. This week's hero is pretty simple. The only problem is he can't be the hero again because he was the hero last week. So, I'm going to say this week's hero is Josh Jacobs.
2.8.
He ran 20 times for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. If that doesn't make him a hero against the Texans, I don't know what does. But moving from that topic, I thought maybe there would be another hero that we could talk about. And I found a hero that I just thought was perfect to go along with Josh Jacobs, the bulldog of the Raiders. Having a friend who has your back can make all the difference in the world. Just ask a little chihuahua named Pulma. The other day, Pulma was hanging out with his dog siblings at home in Brazil when one tiny mistake almost led to a huge disaster. While sniffing around the family pool, Pulma slipped off and fell into the water. He paddled with his little paws the best he could, but it soon became clear that he wasn't able to get out on his own. Pulma was at risk of drowning. But then a hero emerged. It was Pulma's pit bull pal, Athena. You can see on a video that Athena arrives, paces alongside the pool for a moment, and then jumps in. She splashes around for a few moments and then reaches in and pulls Pulma from the water and places him on the ground next to the pool. Athena had saved the day. The dog's owners were at home at the time, and they ran outside after they heard the splashing from Athena, only to discover that she had already rescued Pulma. At first, owner Janina Litte was worried that Athena's grip might have been too strong as she pulled Pulma from the pool. But after she released the pup, he emerged startled but unscathed. It was a big scare, the owner said, but thanks to her, Pulma was unharmed. Athena is very affectionate and protective of her siblings. She is very special. Athena's loving and protective instinct had averted tragedy, but the owner plans to do even more. Even though this was the first time one of the dogs had fallen into the pool, she still intends to take precautions to avoid another mishap. We are looking into putting some protection around the pool, she said. This certainly will not happen again. We love our fur babies. And as Athena's actions prove, they very much love one another. Athena, you're Heidi's hero this week.
I always love hearing heroes that are fur babies because, as you and I both relate, our fur babies are our kids, and of course, there are so many people out there that have dogs and cats as pets, and of course, pets can certainly step up and be heroes every single day, not just for the heroic things they do, for just for being there. They love us unconditionally, and it's up to us to do our part to take care of our little heroes.
And, like I said, Josh Jacobs is the obvious hero for the week, but I thought Athena could stand up on that podium next to him.
Absolutely. Wearing the little Josh Jacobs dog jersey.
Yes.
And it's got to have number 28 on it as well.
Well, of course. And that about does it for this week on the Only Nation podcast. We'd like to thank our new sponsor, Signables, and remind you to go to our social media pages at Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram and enter the contest to win your very own Signable. If you'd like to help support the show, you can send in a donation at paypal.me/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as @KevlarPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook. You can also find me on Captain Jack Rackham's channel every other Tuesday night. Join the DC wench Peggy Holmes and Andrea Trask on Silver and Black Ladies Night. And coming up in November, T3 is going to join us for one of those episodes as well.
And I can't wait for that. That's coming up next month. So Raider Nation, we want you with us every step of the way during the regular season. So here's what we'd like you to do. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raiders swag and podcast stickers. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us. 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. There are two easy ways to find me on social media. You can send me a tweet at T3_sports703, as several of you do, or you can hit me up on Facebook at Tom, Thom Jones. I want to also thank all of you for your continued support of the Raider Roots Project. As we mentioned last week, hopefully this is going to be converted into a book. I'm busy doing research on a specific segment of Raiders history, which these next few episodes will be a part of. So please give me your feedback on the episodes and tell me what you want to know more about.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you. And go enter the contest, everyone. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
And again, we want to thank Signables for joining on. And just a reminder to everyone else, we are not just a nation, we are the only nation. And we'll be back, hopefully, to discuss a big win as we go down to the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints.
Raiders.